My name is Josh Pauline. I'm the chef owner of Home Cafe and Marketplace in Bowling Green.
Okay, when you started this, you had a specific idea for your restaurant. Because we could go back, but I'm going to go back in a minute. But what was your specific idea for this restaurant? What's the concept of Home Cafe and Marketplace?
The concept now is a lot different than what the concept originally started out as. So the concept originally started out as is just the idea of like, let's fix this really like fun food and do these crazy flavor combinations. And food was a lot different back then. You still had a lot of young chefs doing crazy young things. The fusion movement was really big. But we spent 6 years now, and a lot of the really influential young chefs became kind of the leaders of the industry, and what they found out was they kind of really loved their mom's food. And so what you see now is you see a lot more of an emphasis on like traditional food. Obviously Sean Brock paved a lot of the way for that, but even guys like Aaron Sanchez are making very traditional Mexican food now. And Home Cafe has kind of mimicked that movement. And when we started out, you saw bulgogi cheesesteaks and kung pao pizzas and dishes that we all love and still feature on the menu. But you also see us toning it down a lot more and saying, what is the food that represents home, Bowling Green, Kentucky? And for us, it's like today's fried chicken sandwich day. And so we're doing fried chicken sandwiches. We do pot roasts through the winter. So we've found a way to do very traditional food now in what we hope is a very, very good way, and a way everybody enjoys.
And you had an idea of also, because it wasn't huge yet, and it was we had just launched our website and we're doing the buy local thing and try to get people back in the farmers market, but it hadn't really, there was a couple restaurants that were buying from local farms, but you really went hyper on that.
Right, yeah. We very aggressively bought from the farmers market. We were lucky we opened in summer, so the market was really ticking at the time, so we were able to kind of flex our muscle, if you will, right away by buying as much as we can local. And I think that's a consistent theme you'll hear from anybody that you interview that buys locals. We buy as much as we can, or as much as we're able. Sometimes price points just don't line up. Local chicken, for example, I was talking with Nemore Acres this week. He's got $4.50 a pound in chickens, which means by the time I took the bones out and everything, I'd be selling $20 chicken salad sandwiches. Nobody's gonna buy a $20 chicken salad sandwich. But yeah, so we really wanted to buy as much as we could local, and that's the philosophy we've carried out through 6 years very successfully now.
And then we talked a little bit about the whole what you grew up eating. Where were you born, first off?
Yep.
Where were you born?
I was born in Beckley, West Virginia.
And how long did you live in West Virginia?
I lived in West Virginia then 2 years before I moved to Maysville, Kentucky. But in my family, West Virginia is always home, and so we're going home for Christmas, or we're going home for the summer. And so I lived there till I was 2, but I spent almost every summer there growing up for months at a time.
And what's your earliest food memory of going to West Virginia?
Earliest food memory, undoubtedly Thanksgiving dinners, and both of my grandparents lived there, and just whole family being there. Both of my grandmas could cook, but my mom's mom was an absolutely incredible cook.
What was her name?
Her name's June, and it was just unbelievable. It was the food you dream of, like on a consistent basis.
What's your favorite one she cooked?
Oh,
yeah, I'm putting it on the spot.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing
I'm sure you can probably tell, but I'm a biscuits and gravy kid, and Grandma could make gravy out of anything. I mean, actually anything. And that's the way she cooked. You know, we would have like brown sugar cured steak. They would hunt deer or venison, and then you put it down in this brown sugar cure, and we serve it at the restaurant sometimes with beef. But then so she fries it, and then she makes like a pan gravy out of it. There's biscuits and gravy, sausage gravy, bacon gravy. They raised their own hogs. They had a huge garden. Food just always tasted better because it was right there. And so you have this whole story of the animal and how it is, and then all of a sudden Grandpa's curing the sausage in the shed, and then he brings it and you fry it, and there's nothing like it.
Even though you were born more recently, you were raised almost old school.
Oh yeah, right. I think that's a big, as much as we laugh about West Virginia and some parts of Kentucky, being behind on things, it's been a huge advantage to me in my career in that I saw my grandpa cure hams and sausage, and I know what a smokehouse is, and you know, both of my grandparents raised their own food, raised their own gardens, and so you can say it was because, well, they didn't have a grocery store in their town, which is true, but it made for these incredible food memories and things that even now talking about them, like I'm salivating thinking about that food on the table.
Food politics question. Cornbread, how should it be made? Sweet or not sweet?
Oh, that is a bitter argument in my family. Chelsea is a diehard. She wants cake, or I call it cake. Cornbread should not be sweet.
I think that's something like Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia and you know, Ronnie Lundy and people like that have discussed it.
Right.
That's not a sweet cake there.
Yeah, it's not
Southerners,
cake.
yes.
Right. It's not cake. You know, cornbread goes with beans, and it goes with salty ham, and it goes with greens. None of those things do I ever think, man, I really want sugar with this. I want this underlying savoriness. Cornbread should always be savory.
And you went to Maysville right after West Virginia.
Yep.
How long were you in Maysville?
We were in Maysville up until kindergarten, so 3 to 4 years we lived in Maysville.
And then where'd you go after that?
Plymouth, Michigan.
And so you had a drought of really good food.
Yeah, we had a drought to say the least. Yeah, Michigan was, we lived there for a year, and I understand now that in the UP it's a gorgeous state and there's all this stuff.
Very political.
We lived in a suburb of Detroit in the early 90s. Detroit wasn't the safest area at the time. As a kid, there were great sports teams, but I have zero food memories of Michigan whatsoever.
And then was Bowling Green the next spot?
Bowling Green was the next spot, so I came here in first grade, and
where'd you go?
Cumberland Trace Elementary, and it's been home ever since then.
So you went to Cumberland Trace, Drake's, and
Cumberland Trace, Drake's, Greenwood, and then Miami of Ohio.
You are my first Greenwood Gator.
First Greenwood Gator. Well, then I'm the best interviewee already, just by nature.
So wait, you went to Miami of Ohio so you could get your culinary career started, right?
No, I always dreamed of being an attorney. I worked at Bellore, Ayers and Moore here. I worked at Wyatt Tarrant Combs. Always thought I would be an attorney. And you know, I started working at those law firms, and I got a poli-sci degree. And what I really learned was I just really didn't want that to be my life.
And so, how'd you pivot to cooking?
Well, I guess it's kind of that like old romantic question. If you can do anything in your life and be happy, money doesn't matter, what would it be? And when I worked at the law firm, I would get so bored during the day, and this is bad because a lot of my bosses come in here, or my old bosses come in here now, but I had so little to do that Dad had an old smoker that he never used, and so I started reading on how to barbecue foods. I've always loved barbecue, and so I started reading how to smoke foods and do these things, and that's something that doesn't exist in West Virginia, and so that's really an influence of the true South in my cuisine. But I started reading on how to smoke these foods and barbecue, and I learned how to use a smoker, and I like to think I got pretty good at it, and then I was like, man, I want to open a barbecue restaurant. And so my answer to the $1 million question was, I want to open a barbecue restaurant.
When you were in college, did you cook much?
Cooked all the time. Actually, I was in a fraternity, and I started this program every Sunday. Oxford's a town everybody goes out to eat every meal. We don't cook in the houses or anything. And so every Sunday I would cook brunch for the whole fraternity and any friends that wanted to come, and for $5 I would cook brunch, and all the money went to our philanthropy. And we were able to raise thousands of dollars that way just by cooking hash brown casserole and biscuits and gravy. You gotta understand, when you get to Ohio and you start slinging like biscuits and gravy and food like that, people get really excited. Really excited.
They also get excited with chili with cinnamon powder.
Yeah, that's an unforgivable sin.
Okay, that's an unforgivable sin, but what is one of the greatest accomplishments in Oxford food scene?
Oxford food scene.
That influences you today.
Yeah, it's a great pub food town. I mean, it's great bar food. But there is a place called Bagel and Deli in Oxford, Ohio. You ask any Miami grad about it, it's probably going to be the very first restaurant they say. It's steamed bagel sandwiches. They stay open until 3 a.m. You've actually got to like fight your way to the counter. They get so busy, and it is just perfection. It is so good.
We skipped over Maysville. Did you get any food traditions from Maysville?
You know, I was so young when I lived in Maysville, and I can remember things. But the one thing I always remember is Jim's Donut Shop. And once again, that's a Maysville institution. I know you have roots in Maysville. Ryan from the Fatted Calf has roots from Maysville. And everybody instantly goes to Jim's Donut Shop.
And the transparent pies.
Transparent pies. And I actually remember Deshays was there when I lived there. And it was the first place I ever had potato skins.
Really?
Yep. So we always thought Deshays invented potato skins, which I've since learned not.
Wait, they did?
Yeah, but I remember Deshays quite well too.
So where'd you go after Miami?
After Miami, I moved to Lexington, Kentucky for culinary school. I went to Sullivan, and that's where I met Chelsea. And I was very fortunate. I interviewed, and I had 2 job offers at the same time. I had a job offer with Sawgood, which is where I eventually went to go work. They now have 3 locations in Lexington. And my other job offer was Dairy Queen, and I was very, very close to having to take that Dairy Queen offer. And I consistently think how different my career would have been. But I took the Sawgood offer. I got to work for a phenomenal chef. His name's Jeff Mayer. He's still stored in my phone just as chef. He will forever be chef to me. And from there, and in culinary school, I externed for Mark Wombles, who had just had Heirloom then. Now he's got Distilled in Lexington also. But I was lucky. I never worked the corporate thing. I always worked for local restaurants. I worked for chefs and chef-driven restaurants. So I have a very unique experience in the industry, and I think it reflects a lot of the way we do things here.
Oddly enough, I think Sawgood is in the former Deshays in Lexington.
That's right, yeah. They bought that whole downtown space, yeah.
Let's talk, because I asked you a question off camera before. From going to culinary school to remaining in the industry, how hard is it? Because I don't think people realize how hard. There's so many people who say, I want to open a restaurant.
Yeah.
Not really a good idea for most people.
Right.
Explain the hardships of kind of because then we'll get to when you open here, but
right. Yeah, culinary school's tough. One, just in the commitment. I mean, this idea of every day you're going to wake up and you're going to cook and you're going to do these things. We started, there were 57 kids and adults that started culinary school when I started. From 57 of us, 8 of us graduated together. Of those 8, I think 4 of us still work in the industry cooking, and 2 of them are me and Chelsea. So that speaks volumes. It's a tough industry. You know, you walk out, you take on, for us, culinary school is about $30,000. You take $30,000 of debt, and then you walk out and you're making $9 to $10 is what we were making at the time. The industry unfortunately hasn't changed that much. How do you pay back student loans making $9 an hour? And the answer is, for my case, through the day I ran a deli in downtown Lexington called Giacomo's. At night I would get off, I would go work at Sawgood. And so I consistently worked these 14-hour days, and that's how things get paid back.
What'd you learn from the deli? Because I don't think I ever knew about you working at the deli. You see a lot of it. Actually, it really influenced what we do here. The Reuben is like the one staple that's really, it was a great deli. It was called Giacomo's. We probably had 20 seats. The owner loved New York style delis, and he brought everything in from Carnegie. So we ordered pastrami, corned beef. We made our own sauerkraut. We did all these incredible things. Just that food it's really expensive, and when you're in an area that doesn't really have a large Jewish population, or even just a large population that eats that food, you know, you see a pastrami sandwich for $18, and you're like, that's an $18 sandwich, but pastrami's expensive. So you came to Bowling Green. How'd you get here?
Yep. So while I was at Giacomo's, 440 was hiring an executive chef, and I remember thinking, like, no way I'll get it, but it'll be good interview experience. I knew I wanted to try to work my way back to Bowling Green. And so I went in for the interview. This is a funny story. When I went in for the interview, all the doors were locked to the building, and I was like, oh man. I was like, I don't even know if I want to go to this. I know I'm not going to get the job. And so I kind of wandered around aimlessly trying to find an open door, and finally I got Tom to answer the phone. I was like, hey, I'm here for an interview, and he's like, oh, okay, I'll let you in. And I interviewed, and for some reason it was a crazy enough idea that they felt the need to hire this kid pretty much right out of culinary school. So they hired it. Chelsea and I have been dating 7 months at the time. We're in no way ready to move in together or anything, but we kind of faced this moment, and so I came to Bowling Green, I came home, Chelsea made the call she was going to move with me, and we moved down here.
And then how long were you at 440 before?
So 440 for a year.
And did you open this right after that?
Yeah, and we opened Home Cafe right afterwards. And so, you know, Tom was always so supportive of my style of food. And back then, man, I was right out of culinary school. I had no focus, and Tom really just let me kind of just wing things for a long time. And even when I left here, I remember the day I told him, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And Tom right away was like, that's awesome, you're going to be so successful. You know, he's nothing but supportive. To this day, continues to be nothing but supportive of Home Cafe and me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've done the restaurant business, and I don't want to talk about here yet before talking about the places you worked. Granted, the owners are great, but did you learn anything from some of the line cooks, the people who work in the kitchen, the behind the scenes, the kind of the faceless restaurant industry that most people, unlike your location where people see everyone who cooks everything, most restaurants you go to, they're in the back.
Yep.
Did you learn anything from those guys?
Yeah, I think there's this idea that, you know, you go work for a great chef and he's hands-on teaching you the whole time. That's obviously not the truth at all. I was trained by this group of Hispanic workers. One guy was from Texas, but his family had roots in Mexico. One guy was from Mexico, and another guy was from Peru. So it was all Spanish in the kitchen. You know, I was the guy that was left out, and so I picked up on a lot of Spanish. But those guys, I mean, they really genuinely took me under their wing, and they had nothing but full intentions of me succeeding the whole time. And so for 2 to 3 years, you know, those guys really kind of let me cut my teeth. And I can remember even times I would make mistakes and they would just tell chef it was them, and that way they just got the full brunt of everything. Those guys, one of them, his name's Daniel Garcia. He's actually the chef for the UK football team now, which probably explains why the football team's so bad. It's a burn on Garcia. But no, Garcia, I mean, I still talk to him on a regular basis. He's been in here. I go up and visit him. Great guy, super talented chef. He's the guy from Texas, and so still keep in touch with those guys. I can never thank them enough for what they did for me and how patient they were with me.
And now we're at Home Cafe.
Yep.
Was Chelsea? She was working somewhere else at the time too.
Well, Chelsea had come on board at 440. So Chelsea briefly worked at Gigi's Cupcakes. We were severely understaffed at 440, which is a pretty consistent theme in the industry.
So you left Tom in the lurch for 2 employees he needed after he was severely understaffed.
Yeah. So Chelsea came to work for me there before we opened Home Cafe.
And what we talked about the concept, and of course she has. We'll interview her sometime about her family background. Okay, the other grandma that was great at cooking.
Yeah.
What was she known for?
So Grandma Pauline, she is truly from the mountains. And I'm not saying like, you know, oh, she's from this town in the mountains. Grandma was from the mountains. Like a couple times a month you would go to town to get whatever you needed, and her whole family was German, which is pretty common back there. And so, you know, Grandma would always be making her own sauerkraut. She had a lot of influences from that area. But
was she born in West Virginia?
She was born in West Virginia.
Was she first generation or like?
No, she was probably, I think, 3rd generation.
Okay.
I think, yeah. But you know, you get in those mountain communities, and especially for them, yeah. I mean, what is the difference whatsoever? And so, a lot of really great food and a lot of great food memories with family around her table too.
What's your favorite thing she cooked?
Favorite thing she cooked? She made the best meatballs, and I know I just talked about how German she was, but in that area there's a huge Italian influence, and I don't know where she got the recipe or anything, but her meatballs and her fudge, I've actually got her old recipe box that was given to me, and I think every single grandkid was like, can I get her meatball and fudge recipe, because that was her thing, you know.
Do you use it here?
We don't use, no, because I'm snobby and I think I can make better meatballs. Okay. But hers were really good. You know, it was just a taste of home, if you will.
Okay. And then what food kind of influenced you when you opened here? I know about the farm to table, but what has influenced it since then? Because I've asked everybody, what is Bowling Green's signature dish? What is our food identity?
Right.
And no one really knows.
Right.
You
right.
ask people that, and they kind of give you a blank stare. Like Owensboro's known for the mutton, and you go to Monroe County, they got their barbecue. Is there anything from Warren County that's influenced you, or do you seek the other counties?
I think the biggest influence of Warren County, and I talk about this quite a bit, is it's just that we are still, despite being this developing city, and the Courier-Journal has actually said we're the fastest growing city in Kentucky, we're still an agrarian society. I grew up, there was a farmer's market stand on Lover's Lane where Traditions is now. It was Hunt Farms farmer's market stand. We grew up, we would stop there, and we're still, even though farmers markets are cool and in and everything, we're a whole community that's just always what we've done. You know, we stop in Greenwood High School's parking lot and buy Silver Queen sweet corn. We buy tomatoes. We celebrate the seasons, and so I don't think there's a signature dish necessarily, but I think when it comes to style of eating, I think we all share this very agrarian idea of how food should be consumed.
And you said it's changed, and we've talked about that, but what's the next change in your career path?
The next change in the career path, we are currently working on a 5,200 square foot restaurant in downtown Bowling Green, right next to Circus Square in the New View Apartments, and it's a complete change in concept. I get asked two questions the most. Is it going to be called Home Cafe, and will you keep this one open? So to answer both of those, obviously Home Cafe is staying open. It's going to be great, and it's going to be probably better than ever because I'm finally going to be out of everybody's way
Chelsea
completely.
in charge here?
Chelsea's going to be running the show full time. Right? Yeah. Most people that know us are like, oh, good. So the one that's actually been doing the cooking will be doing the cooking, and then I'll be down at Hickory and Oak full time. Hickory and Oak's the name of the new place. It's going to be a live fire venue. We went to Mesquite, Texas, and bought this awesome smoker and broiler. So you're going to see a lot of fire and a lot of smoke-infused things. And then we're also going to have a heavy emphasis on bourbon, because I think bourbon is something that the whole state of Kentucky should just endlessly celebrate.
So is it barbecue?
That's such a tricky question, and I would describe everything as there will be barbecue. Yes,
okay.
There will be barbecue. It's kind of barbecue for the year 2017. You're going to see a lot of very traditional things like pulled pork and brisket, but you're going to also see some things you probably never seen before, only seen a couple times.
On the barbecue, where are you pulling influence from?
I'm very big into regional barbecue, and so
Sure.
I think everybody has their certain things, and so when you ask me, I hope I can make pulled pork like they do in East Tennessee and the Carolinas. I hope I can make ribs like they do in Memphis all the way down to Alabama. I hope I can make brisket like they do in Texas, and I think those cover kind of the three biggest things.
Sure. And who's helping you with that?
Well, Chelsea's helping me. We travel a lot, and we eat barbecue everywhere we go. I've actually committed at this point. Chelsea and I have been to Texas for 3 separate weeks, a week at a time, just traveling to different barbecue restaurants, eating at places. I was just in Carolina. There's a guy there named Rodney Scott that is just unreal. I mean, the best pulled pork I've ever had.
It's in Georgetown.
Hemingway, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Yep. Whole hog barbecue. And so it's really just, in my opinion, as a chef, I try to eat as much good food as I can and then think about it and say, how can I approach this? Is there anything I would do differently? And then how are we going to serve this?
Not talking food, how difficult is it opening up a restaurant, just the day-to-day operation? What is the one thing you wish you would have done more, knew more about before opening a restaurant?
There's a tremendous, as a restaurant owner, there's a tremendous amount of work. I always tell people the number one thing I was completely unprepared for was the business side of everything, and I think that's so common. You overlook that it is a business first. Even before it is a restaurant, it is a business. So you have to make money, and you have to know how to make money. I am so incredibly fortunate that my dad is a CPA. He is an accountant on a daily basis, and Dad has spent, 6 years now kind of just holding my hand the whole way of this is how the taxes need to be done, this is how payroll is done. Every business decision that is made here is made with consulting with my dad.
Do we want to say an open time for Hickory and Oak, or are we still keeping that?
No, there's no way we can throw an open time out there right now.
All right. And these are the quick questions. Kind of fun, so people know you. Favorite wrestler of all time?
Favorite wrestler of all time? Undoubtedly the Ultimate Warrior. Not that great of a wrestler, but a great entertainer.
Current favorite wrestler?
Current favorite wrestler, I would say Kevin Owens. I mean, the guy can entertain. I like him because he's got my body style, and so like it's like, yeah, that guy's still killing it in the ring.
So can you move like him?
I can't move quite like him. He can like do somersaults and he flips off the top rope, but he's great.
And this is just for my own personal favorite ride at one of the Disney parks.
Favorite ride at Disney park? Oh, Chelsea's gonna kill me. Tower of Terror has to be it. Hollywood Studios is probably the weakest park in my opinion. Currently. Well, and I'm not a fan of the Star Wars edition. But Tower of Terror is just, it's the whole reason we go to Hollywood Studios.
And you're a big movie guy.
Big movie guy.
Best movie you've seen in the last year?
Well, I hope it's tonight when I go see Planet of the Apes, because I am really, really, really excited for Planet of the Apes. But if not that,
didn't you just rave about one?
Yeah, well, I saw Kong Skull Island, and it was great. It was a 10 out of 10 for me. I'm not a movie. I'm not a movie snob by any means. And there's been a lot of great movies. Wonder Woman was really good. I thought Moana was better than Frozen. I made Chelsea go watch a Pablo Neruda film that was completely in Spanish subtitles in Chicago, and thought she was going to murder me for it, but it was a really good movie too.
And you travel. What's the best place you've been in the last year?
What do you qualify as best place? We're talking food destination
experience.
Best experience.
All the thing, because I mean, the food probably wasn't up to the level. You've been to Cuba, you've been to Texas, you've been to the Carolinas, you've been to Chicago.
Yeah.
You're a traveler.
Right. We drove Highway 1 from LA to Portland, and then ended up driving up to Seattle too. But that driving Highway 1, I went to California with really negative expectations. I didn't think I would like it. And I absolutely love the state. We got to stop at the French Laundry along the way. And as you know, I'm a sucker for Americana, and so to my delight, when I got out there, Sizzler is still rocking in California, and so I was really excited about that too. Really enjoyed California, but you know, I love Texas. I can never get enough time in Texas. I have to avoid it in the summertime. Charleston is a great town, and even when we went to Cuba for 10 days, and getting to be kind of this first wave of Americans, or of new Americans that get to see this place that a lot of people thought they would never see. Now that was my dad's like top of his bucket list, was getting to go see that. And so for him, who has grown up his whole life as that's a place you can't go, to get to go and enjoy it so much and have the people embrace you so much, that was a really special trip.
And because you just mentioned Americana and Sizzler, to show that you're not as pretentious as everyone thinks you are, you just mentioned Sizzler, but what's your other favorite restaurant?
Fuddruckers. I was actually just there 2 days ago. Man, growing up, you know, we never ever went to nice restaurants. I was an incredibly picky kid. Our whole family would get excited when we saw TGI Fridays somewhere. But Fuddruckers is a special one, a very special one. There used to be one in Nashville. And then I think they had some problems, but I really think they're like on the way back now. I've written a couple emails to corporate like, hey, bring one to Bowling Green, and surprisingly I've got no response whatsoever.
Weird.
Yeah, I know.
Houston is just not listening.
I know.
Hey, I let people ask a question. People may answer your question. What do you want to know from the people in Bowling Green?
I want to know, if you grew up in Bowling Green and you're a Bowling Green native, what is your favorite restaurant in Bowling Green that is no longer in existence? I love restaurant history, and I love hearing the stories. You know, Matt, I talk about Clark's at least once a week, how much I miss it, how much I miss being able to just go get an ice cream cone and some fried cheese balls. But I also think about Reno's Pizza, which was down on Adams Street.
Never
Just
heard of that.
pizza and wings, and I think my parents liked it because there were games there, so they could just go get wings and beer, and Justin and I were entertained for hours, like playing basketball. So Reno's Pizza is another one for me. But I love restaurant history. I love talking about Bowling Green, and even like the Scottsville Row places. Like, remember when we moved here, we loved going to Quincy Steakhouse and eating steak. I remember, yeah, the Italian Oven, which is where B-Dubs is now. But you got to drink your drink out of a spaghetti straw, and like as a kid, I was like, I have arrived at culinary heaven. So I want to know what Bowling Green's favorite restaurants that are no longer in Bowling Green are.
All right, well, thank you, Josh.
Great, thank you.